man, when you step up, and me as a black man, when I step up and I say, yo, I care about my community, and I care about the kids in my community, and I care about the women in my community. When I step up like that, it makes the country better.
My guest for today needs no introduction. I guess the most significant thing to the expediTIously audience is this was my very first guest. The very first episode of expediTIously was with this legend, the GOAT. And when I say the GOAT, I mean the person who actually originated the term, you know what I'm saying, who actually came up with the acronym, greatest of all times, and called himself the GOAT first. This gentleman, LL Cool J. Man, welcome back to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Yeah, glad to see what you're doing. Glad to see the growth in the podcast. Glad to see people gravitating towards it. I think the energy is right. I think that you've been, representing lovely, and
thank you.
A beautiful thing. You know what I mean?
Man, thank you. I really truly appreciate it, man. You and Q, man, were gracious enough to sit down with me, and just kind of offer insight, wisdom to a generation that probably, I read the comments and they said, man, we've never heard LL speak so openly and candidly. You spoke a lot about your childhood, 100%. How you grew up and how you wanted to separate your music from your life. Whereas, a lot of us, what I'm saying, do the exact opposite. And I think that was real insightful for young cats to hear.
Yeah, I think, to reiterate on that a little bit, I think, look, I grew up, it was rough, you know what I'm saying? And step pops, getting them, them extra whoopings and, thrown out on the porch in the freezing cold in the snow as an 8-year-old, sitting out there crying in the snow and growing up in a neighborhood where, if you want to go clothes shopping for school shopping, you got to take a safety pin and slide a butcher knife into your inside your coat just to make sure you can get home from Jamaica Avenue with your new sneakers that you bought because your mother tax return and got you some sneakers. So when I, in terms of the music, it was like, yo, I'm trying to escape this shit, man. It was like the neighborhood, it was like reefs on every corner, you know what I'm saying? And we was kind of in a nicer community, and it was still like reefs on every corner and candles burning and, my friends killing my friends and, like it was crazy. So yeah, and then growing up and as I got older, going to Harlem, I was in Harlem and like a lot of these listeners, they're familiar with like the Paid in Full movie and all that.
That's what I was just about to say. What people don't know, even though you made a conscious decision to make sure your music represented fun and positivity, you still rubbed elbows and was shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the most treacherous motherfuckers known, to the era.
Well, here's the thing, Tip. It's like, if you really think about it, the guys that really been near it want to get away from it, bro.
That's real.
You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
If you really been around it, you don't really want to be talking about that too much. That's like one of them things that, you want to get away from. And, a lot of the hustlers and the artists that, not artists, but, well, they're kind of street artists, but the guys I hung around with,
to it.
yeah, they didn't glorify it,
Right.
When I was around, Richie Porter, may he rest in peace, and around AZ, you know what I'm saying? And even Alpo, being around him, like it was no glorification at that time. There was a lot of craziness. My man Big Chuck took me around, a lot of craziness, but people weren't, especially AZ. It really wasn't about the glorification. So look, there but for the grace of God go I. You know what I mean? That's why I don't judge. And that's why, I you can't judge people until you've been in their shoes. So when we have, different people try to say different things about our community, if you don't know what it's like to dodge gunshots going to the grocery store, and you don't understand what it's like to, be worried because your little sister got to walk home from school, or if you don't know what it's like to, be hungry and be looking through the fat back for a little piece of meat, you know what I'm saying? If you don't understand that, then you can't really judge, you know what I mean? Because, a lot of times our best and our brightest and our most courageous end up doing the things that are probably the least beneficial to them long term, because they have the guts and the ingenuity to try something because they just don't like the life that a lot of us are put in a situation to live. And all of this kind of stems from systemic racism at the end of the day. Because
it absolutely does.
If the playing field was even, we wouldn't be thinking like that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, it's real.
I mean, I think that's a key point to press upon, because the trauma that comes with growing up in the environment that so many of us have had to endure. So that environment was meant to break us. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you must know. Mm-hmm. That environment was meant, like, we were segregated, put into one part of town, and that part of town had the least amount of resources, the worst, no budget for education. You know what I'm saying? The least nourishable produce, like everything, the worst of the worst was dedicated, and we were all cramped in, beyond capacity. Yet we find ways, whether it's prohibition, whether it's heroin, whether it's cocaine, crack, hip hop, basketball, football, whatever it is, we find a way to make it out of these detrimental circumstances, and use what the devil meant for bad for good.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I think that, look, there are some that say, oh man, dudes, selling poison to their own community and this and that. Look, we never want to condone that. We never want to say that that's okay. Right. But at the same time, these are the types of sacrifices that people are put in a position where they have to make these kinds of sacrifices. So while it's not what we want to do, and it's definitely not ideal, and by no means do we want to, enslave our community in any way with all of those things, but you have people put in a position where they feel like they have no other choice if they want to have any semblance of a good life. So it's really a tough, it's like you're put between a rock and a hard place. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is that, now that we've gotten a little bit further ahead in this space, and now that we know a little bit more, it's up to us to start taking a hard look at this legislation. This is true. Take a hard look at the way some of us are treated for crimes, as opposed to, the way some white people are treated for crimes.
Absolutely.
There's just so much there, because there's a lot of pain. Look, the one thing I want to be clear about is that nobody said that everything that goes on in the hood is perfect.
Right.
I'm not saying it's all ideal, and I'm not saying it's perfect. And I know that we have room to grow. And we know that there are people in our communities.
And we have grown.
And we have grown as well. And we have room to grow more.
Sure.
But that being said, at the same time, the systemic racism still has to be addressed. Absolutely. So what am I saying? I'm saying that, look, we know that the drug dealer and the dude who's doing that, we know that it's wrong on some level. We know that it hurts our community, but we also understand why people are put in that position and why they feel like they have no choice. So why don't let's alleviate the real problem. Let's get to the real deep why. The deepest why is, why are they doing that? Because they don't have options.
That's right.
Right? So if we really want to get to the bottom of it, let's figure out why people in these Black and brown communities don't have options other than hustling, don't have options other than boosting, don't have options other than doing some of the things that we as a community are not necessarily proud of, but we feel like we have to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
We got to really take a look at that.
I completely agree. Like in my evaluation of the circumstances, I kind of pinpointed 3 sectors that causes the perpetuation of the cycle to continue. The lack of proper education, the lack of employment opportunities, and the lack of exposure. Okay, those 3 things. If we could raise the bar for those 3 things, if our children are educated the same way as children that live in the suburbs and have the same access to the same information, I feel like then their opportunities they'll have opportunities more so because of, you know, the level that they can think on. Same way, employment opportunities. If we have the same amount of employment opportunities in our communities as they do in the suburbs, then I feel like there's less poverty, there's less crime, because as you just mentioned, most people who in it want to get out of it. But if you ain't got nothing to get out of it too, and it's either do this or listen to your child cry from hunger pains, I'm gonna do this. And exposure. Most things we respond adversely to because we haven't been exposed to it early enough in life. And I think all of these three things play a huge part in why things are the way they are continuously for us.
I think exposure is a real important word, because, you know, when you think about education, a lot of it has to do with the way the narrative is set out. So even when you're in the classroom, the way history is taught, when you're a little black kid in the classroom and you learn about slavery, it's actually kind of embarrassing and demeaning. It makes you feel weird. And it's something that you never really admit as a black child sitting there, but you never feel great about it. You feel different.
I never thought about that.
You know, when you're sitting there and they talk about this slavery, and then they, you know, and then we're separating Egypt from Africa and making it totally different. And so we like, it's almost like we're in this situation where the only accomplishment we've ever made is to was to be a slave. Like that's the only thing we've ever done. And it's like the way the narrative is laid out for us like that, it's real rough. So what happens is you walk down the street and you just feel like the descendant of a former slave who never did nothing. So it breaks down your self-esteem. Right. You know what I'm saying? It breaks down who you are as a man and who you are as a human being. And I think a lot of that, of course, was by design, but it needs to be addressed, because when we talk about education, it's not enough to just use the buzzword education. What is the education? What is the curriculum? And what type of history are we going to be teaching these kids so that they can move forward and feel and be filled with pride and self-esteem about who they are as kings and queens and what they can become in their lives? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big deal. Like, it's crazy. It's foul. Like, especially, I'll tell you, I've been in both kinds of schools, right? In Queens and Long Island. So I've been in the all black school and got that lesson. And I've been in the white and black school and got that lesson. It feels weird in both places. You know what I'm saying? And when you're in the white school and you're sitting there with black and white and you learn about slavery, it's like, damn, it's like kind of like you want to crawl under your desk. And when you're in the black school, you learn about slavery, it's like, dang, man, we never did nothing. Dang. That's crazy. And then I'll tell you proof that people know it's true, because what do they ask a person like yourself or me as soon as you become somewhat successful? How'd you make it out? What do you mean how to make it out? You asking me how I made it out? So you know it's a trap then.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you created the trap music. It's like, you know it's a trap then. You asking me how I made it out? Made it out of where? How you know? What you mean?
You telling me so you can fix it so the next motherfucker ain't gonna be able to make it out? I found a hole. Yeah, you trying to plug the gap so the next one can't make it out. That's fucked up. That's another piece of perspective, man, and I think that is very valuable to view life from, man. You spoke about education, and I think this is that is key. The curriculum, that's key. I read Malcolm X say, anyone who allows their children to be educated by their oppressor is a fool.
There you go.
How can we create a curriculum for our children to learn from? Of course, I know as a parent, you go to school, that's, you know what I'm saying, that's the bare minimum. You got to learn that shit because that's what everybody else know. But when you come home, you have a different level of education. It's a whole nother curriculum that you got to dive into. But how do we in these schools get our children educated by a respectable curriculum? Because we would never catch our Jewish brothers and sisters sending their children to a school that teaches their children that Hitler is a hero.
Exactly.
And that's exactly the equivalence of what our children are going into these schools being taught. How do we fix that?
I think it's very simple. You have to have, people have to get in a room and think about the long-term psychological, emotional, and spiritual effects of everything that they're teaching the children. Period. How's this going to affect this kid? When you try to turn, a Confederate, general into a hero, how's that going to affect this kid?
Right.
When you only teach this kid slavery, but don't teach him about Nubia and don't teach him about all the great things that came out of Africa and all of the
Mansa Musa
and Mansa Musa and all of that,
Nefertiti, Cleopatra. I mean, it's so much greatness.
That narrative, it's about the narrative, right? It's about all children should have the opportunity to feel like heroes and have heroes. Sure. It shouldn't only be one group of kids that get to have all the heroes. It's like, I think Black Panther shows that in a lot of ways. Like we went to the Black Panther. The thing that struck me more than anything about that amazing movie, Black Panther, was just sitting there feeling like honestly and deeply and truly, I've never seen Black people in a film like that big and promoted and looking that special and spectacular, and having to admit to myself that in my entire life, I had never experienced that. And it looked odd to me.
That's true. You know what? The only other times, right, that I could recall a similar feeling, not the same, of course, but a similar feeling it's going to be odd, but remember the time, the video, Michael Jackson and Eddie Murphy, you know what I'm saying? Yep, that video showed me Africa in a whole new light, you know what I'm saying? Because before then, like you said, we were taught that, they were a third world country and they were, we didn't see the opulence.
Exactly.
And another one also involving Eddie Murphy, Coming to America.
100%. 100%. I agree totally. That's why I think, man, look, I think that as a people, we gotta man up. It's not about excluding other people and hating other people because, look,
of course not.
There's people of all races and religions down there on the front lines getting hit with batons, catching rubber bullets, getting beat up, ran over, and everything out there fighting on the right side of history. But we as a people, we got to man up and we got to step up. That's why that was the whole reason why I put out the freestyle verse that I did.
That shit was dope, by the way.
Thank you. The reason I put that out is because you know what? This is one of them times where there is no being neutral. Right. There is no Hollywood two-step. There is no, okay, I'm doing this. Let me kind of lay back and be delicate about it. And I don't want to ruffle no feathers. Man, fuck that. You
can't pay your way out of it.
You got to ride for your people and you got to be willing to step up for your people. Like when we're in look, people, especially your listeners who are a lot younger, since they've been alive, they've known me, even yourself as being famous and being LL Cool J on TV, even if it ain't the music, just in general, right?
Right.
But so they've always seen me being diplomatic, et cetera, et cetera. But this is one of the moments where I have to be a Black man first. I got to think about my people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be in no situation where I'm not going to walk around this country and feel like I wasn't there for my people. I'm not doing it. It ain't nothing worth that.
I applaud you and salute you for that.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing worth that because I know what it's like to be in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Swallow Vicks. You know what I'm saying? When you got a cold and your grandmother rubbed green alcohol on your back. You know what I'm saying? You go down to South Carolina in the summer and play in red dirt and go to Piggly Wiggly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it is.
I had a reverse experience. I used to go to New York for the summer.
I was running around, Piggly Wiggly. Yo, like, and it's like, these are my people, bro. So my thing is when I saw that man kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 40 seconds, it changed me. And it ain't gonna make me bitter though. It's gonna make me better. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna make me, it ain't about some hidden anger, revenge. It's about, you know what? We gonna do right. It's about a righteous, we got a righteous beef. We got a just cause. You know what I'm saying? We have the high ground in this situation because we're not looking for nothing that we shouldn't have. Ain't nobody asking for nothing they shouldn't have.
That's real.
You know what I'm saying?
And to be honest with you, it's not even that whether or not you should or shouldn't have it, simply because the rights that we are demanding are God-given. They're God-given rights. So they have to be taken.
Yeah.
They have to be taken, stolen, robbed from us. And we have to go along with it. But as soon as we say, nah, the jig's up, man. And if everyone in solidarity recognizes at the same time, we all deserve these same rights and these freedoms and liberties that are available to others. And we just have to stand up and demand them. That's just like if you go into a store, you give a motherfucker $100 for an $80 tab, and they give you back $5. If you walk out the store, then that's on you.
100%.
You dig what I'm saying? You got to speak up that now you got that wrong. You owe me a little more. You owe me a little more. I need my other $15 back. And if you don't know enough or ain't got the courage enough or ain't got the wits to say that,
yeah,
then you don't deserve your $15.
And then here's the beauty of it though. The beautiful thing about it is that if we, you know, as a man, when you step up, and me as a black man, when I step up and I say, yo, I care about my community and I care about the kids in my community and I care about the women in my community. When I step up like that, it makes the country better.
That's
you
right.
know, how can a white man across the street respect me if I don't even respect my own self and my own people?
That's real.
Yeah, how you go, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta respect who you are. Like, I gotta respect, if I don't respect my people, how can he respect my people? So it's like, this is something that we have to do. The reason I got respect on my arm is because you gotta give it to get it. It's like, this is mandatory. Like, we gotta respect our own people. And like, that's the whole reason why I started my, I did my platform, right? So let me give you a little bit about this. So rockthebells.com. The reason I started rockthebells.com is because I felt like they were trying to, the powers that be, or the people that were kind of the gatekeepers to a certain extent, were treating hip hop culture like it was boy band pop music. In other words, if you ain't on the top 10 of the charts today, you don't matter. We can big up Bob Dylan all day. We could big up Bono all day. We could big up Mick Jagger all day. We could big up the Beatles all day. I mean, every other day somebody's breaking a Beatles record. I don't know why. They seem to have a record every week. Some new. We can big them up all day. But then when it comes to classic hip hop culture and timeless hip hop culture, we were getting treated like we were commodities. And my thing is, we have a true culture here, man, that grew and raised the whole many generations. And they need to know about this culture. And guess what? We got Generation X fans my age who love Run DMC and love LL Cool J and love Public Enemy and love Eric B. and Rakim and love the Beastie Boys and love Snoop's early work and love, you know, Dr. Dre and love, you know what I'm saying, Outkast and love, you know, MG, you know, 8Ball and MJ, you know, all of them. Like,
all of it. UGK.
UGK, of course. So,
all of it.
So my thing is, why not have a platform that really speaks to the people? But the difference is it's owned by the culture. So like on the rockthebells.com, Run DMC are owners. And Roxanne Shante is an owner, and Big Daddy Kane is an owner, and Crazy Legs, the B-Boy, the Breaker is an owner, and Fab Five Freddy is an owner. And you know, and I wanted to make sure Salt and Pepper are owners. I wanted to make sure that this thing was owned by some of the pioneers who helped move the culture forward, because they never got a chance to get a bite at the apple like yourself did. Like even myself, because I did other things, or maybe an Ice Cube, or maybe, you know, a Will Smith or a Latifah. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get that shot. So it's like now we're giving them an opportunity to do that. You know what I'm saying? With rockthebells.com.
I think that's fact.
Yeah, so you can go on there and, you know, we have.
So what platform, where does it exist? Is it a streaming platform?
What it is you just go to rockthebells.com. When you go to rockthebells.com, you're going to see content, commerce, experiences. The content will be, there's all kind of articles and exclusive audio and exclusive video, bigging up that Generation X classic hip hop, giving you all the insight into the world and how it was for Kane coming up, and looking at Biz Markie and looking at Roxanne Shante and looking at where hip hop started and the founders like Kool Herc and the pioneers. But then there's also the commerce hub, right? Where you can get everything from, you know, a do-rag to a pair of fresh Jordans to, you know, a hair weave to, you know,
so the commerce, is that like merch items that are specifically from the artists of your choice?
It's both. It's commerce and merch that's not only like merch, like you can find Biggie stuff and Pac stuff and all of that, but it's also just normal clothing. Like we basically,
like black owned shit that you want to, if you want to support black owned businesses, independent businesses. A lot of
black owned. We are black owned, right? But not only are we black owned, but I took the best of what's on Amazon, the best of what's on some other platforms, and curated curated a platform. So the difference is when you go through us, like, and you buy something from us and you go through us to go to Amazon, the difference is you're leaving dollars in the Black community. When you go through us and you go through us to go to, let's say, a Far-Fetched or a different store, you're leaving dollars in the Black community. That's the difference. So we have all of these various partners that we've worked with, like Amazon, but we have curated a Black-owned experience that is for us. You know what I'm saying? Our culture. You know, it's everything that we love. And this is from the sneakers to the books, whether you want to read Robert Greene books and the Art of War and the Prince and Machiavelli, and you want to read
ISIS papers.
Just anything you want to read. We got them all there. The books, the clothing, whether you want to get Rock the Bells clothes proper, or you maybe want to get a Gucci shirt, or maybe you want to get something more expensive, or maybe you want something affordable. We got it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's dope, man. And what you said something that I say all the time. I constantly speak about culture being our commodity. You know, that's our import-export culture, okay? Do you think that we are doing a good enough job of leveraging our influence culturally?
I think it's getting better. I think that, like, what I'm doing, what you're doing, this podcast, what we're doing is a step in the right direction. We will get better at it. There is room for improvement. There is room for growth, but it's the matter of just time. People
consistency.
Being consistent, consistency. People got to go to rockthebells.com. They got to watch the expediTIously podcast. They got to come into our world and get used to the idea that we are now doing something for us. Like, and this is new to me. When I got involved with FUBU, it was very similar. It was for us, by us, right? So, like, this is something that I've always been in my mind. But now, having this platform, I think that we are finally getting in a place where we're taking advantage of our influence on the culture in a big way, because now I can talk about stories I want to see about Kane, and stories I want to see about Latifah, and big up Pepper, and now you can do your podcast and you can say, hey, I want to have LL Cool J on there. We're gonna talk to him. We don't have to
represent and platform to platform your interests. You know what I'm saying? So, but and as long as we have a mutual interest to fill the gap within the community, for me to support you, it's just, a step in the right direction.
100%. I think,
and vice versa. I think that's important. So that's another thing, right? I want you to speak a bit, just, from your voice, your perspective, how you feel we could do a better job of leveraging our influences and have a collective impact. Because we've had a lot of individual impact. I've had my success, you've had your success, Cube's had his success, you know what I'm saying? But how can we all come together collectively and do things like Rock the Bells, what you're doing, including everyone else, doing things like what Jay did with Tidal when he included everyone else, coming together like what Swiss and Timbaland did with the Verses. Like how could we all collectively make a greater impact?
You know what's amazing? We're doing it. We just got to get better at it. We're doing it, T.I. Like, we're doing it right now. We are literally on your platform talking about my platform, bro. We're doing it. We literally are doing it. We just got to get bigger, and we got to get better at it. And I think that part of it is also not being afraid to speak up from a standpoint of, hey, get out and vote. Hey, sign up for the census. Hey, be out there, demonstrate. Hey, and another thing is supporting generations. I think that generational support is important. Like, I support your generation, you support that generation under you. Like, like, that's important too. Bridging the gap, not being rooting for each other.
Right.
I think, we need to root for each other. I should want to see your podcast go through the roof.
Right.
You should want to see what I'm doing succeed. We should collectively see Swiss and Tim succeed. Like, these are see Tidal succeed. These are part of the journey, because we have to work together. It doesn't mean that we can't have friendly competition. It's unrealistic to think that that'll never take place, but we still have to think about the greater good, which is our people, and how what we do affects them. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
real.
So when I do a rockthebells.com and then I'll have a story or a feature on the expediTIously podcast or some crazy thing, that's a good thing. When you on your thing and you support rockthebells.com and say, yo, you should go check it out, that's a good thing. When like my music is on Tidal, I didn't call Jay up and say, yo, take my music off of Tidal. I didn't call Def Jam and say, yo, take my stuff off of Tidal. You know what I mean? Let that man live. Let him rock. Let them do their thing. You see what I'm saying? These are the things that we have to think about. And I think that that's part of how we leverage it. It's being men and actually wanting to see each other succeed and women and wanting to see each other succeed. I think that's a big part of it.
I mean, I agree. I agree completely. And I mean, speaking of support, you and Cube are two of the greatest GOATs out there. And you guys are true partners, professionally as well as personally, right? You guys collaborated on the Big Three, correct?
Yep.
Which is, you know, still a huge move in my eyes, man. Feels a need after the NBA season, even though there wasn't an NBA season concluded this year, but even still, it also allows people who still have basketball in their hearts to continue with their passion, doing what they love for a living, even after the NBA may say, all right, y'all, we done with you. So that's, you know what I'm saying? That's.
Well, it goes back to this. It's like, Tip, listen, we gotta learn to love our own.
That's right.
You know, some of those players, you know, when you see Bonzi Wells and when you see, you know, different dudes out there playing in the Big Three, it's like, yo, man, in a lot of ways, they're treated like, you know, like rap artists who maybe aren't at the top of the charts currently, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like we want to still see them. We still believe in them. We still love them.
That's
and prior to what Cube did with the Big Three, and prior to what I was doing with Rock the Bells, a lot of our heroes, either in hip hop or in sports, were basically written off once they were no longer in the immediate spotlight of the current moment. That's not right, because it doesn't happen to other genres.
It don't happen nowhere else.
Get to live. The other athletes, you know, they get to live. My thing is, give people a platform and an opportunity and a chance to live and succeed, and let us continue to love our heroes. We shouldn't have to belittle ourselves once we're no longer doing something in the current moment. We should be able to continue and be great. And that's why I respect Cube so much for the Big Three. That was Cube's idea. I was just one of the investors. But
that's right.
I respect what he did with that. And when he called me up, he's like, yo, you want to get down? You want to put something in? I was like, I wrote a check. I couldn't write a check fast enough because I wanted to see him succeed, and I want to see that dream succeed. And that's why he has my full support. And the same thing with rockthebells.com, man. It's like, yo, I want to see these artists really have fans. Like, you know, Public Enemy really has fans. It is not we are not saying by any means that I'm like, do I want to like downplay what the youngsters are doing? I'm not even one of them type of OGs. I'm not even in that zone. Like, I like to see youngsters. I want to see your rubber band snapping crazy, baby. I want to see you do it. Please believe it. You know what I'm saying? I want to see it. Your man, he loves to see it. But I also want to see us continue to man up. And, you know, it's nothing better. When I was a young boy, nothing made me feel better than seeing one of my heroes still doing good and feeling good. Like, it filled me with pride. You know what I'm saying? And I remember that feeling and want to keep it going.
Now, you and Q, you partnered on the Big Three, but you also were part of a dynamic group of investors that were bidding for the regional sports television network. Yeah. What happened with that? How did that work out?
Well, the RSNs, we put a group together. Myself, Cube, Jeff Quatness, we put a group together. We came up with something like $9 billion, somewhere in that order, somewhere around that. And we had to jump through a lot more hoops than people would like to admit. I mean,
So you found out along the way that it's going to take a little more than money.
It's going to take more than money. It's going to take more than money. And, you know, some of the timing was a little funky, but it really was. We just had to go through a lot more hoops. And it really boiled down to that issue. the systemic issue. You know, that systemic issue was tough. And when me and Q made that announcement, there was a lot of people that just said, no way. You know what I'm saying? Not understanding that we were going to be there. Like, we want to do things that America's going to love.
Right.
Like, you know, when we think about doing television stations, and when we don't think about doing, like, you know, channels, and when we think about doing all these things, I'm thinking about things that are going to be great for the world, and great for our country, and great for our people too, but great for everybody. I'm not looking to, like, hurt what we doing. And I think that, but that's a matter of trust and time. But I tell you one thing, T, I think that the game has changed, and I bet you in the future, moving forward, you're going to see them announcements be a little different. And
I bet, hey, listen, man, I can't wait. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? Don't lose my number when it's time to pass the hat around. You dig what I'm saying?
You're going to see some good things happen, B. You're going to see some good things happen.
Man, I recently saw your Father's Day post. You know, we celebrate. Happy Father's Day to you, by the way.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day.
And you celebrated your father.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? That's something that we hadn't heard you speak on a lot. And I think, you know, a lot of people have concluded that's where you got your hat game from. Hey, I mean, look, salute to you and your pops. But tell me, what is the greatest piece of advice that you could offer about fatherhood?
Oh man, the greatest advice that I could offer about fatherhood. Teach through actions, not through words.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think teaching through actions, you know, kids listen to what you say, but they really watch what you do.
That's real.
You know what I'm saying? They listen to your actions. They listen to your actions.
They listen to your actions.
They hear your actions.
That's
you know
real.
what I'm saying? That's what they
really are louder than words.
100%.
That's
and
real.
I think that part of it, and then I would say the other part is that, look, as a father, you can't teach more than you know. So it's probably in your children's best interest and your interest to find out and learn as much as you can.
That's real.
Right? Because you can't, what you don't want to do is, one of the things we have to be careful, and this is throughout our lives, is we don't know what we don't know.
That's real.
So because of that, every day we need to try to improve. Because you might be teaching your children a flawed ideology. You might be teaching them a bad recipe for life, and you don't even know it.
That's real.
You know, it reminds me of, you know how you hear about, you know, Elizabeth in England when Queen Elizabeth they were using makeup on their face and they had lead packed in it, and they were poisoning themselves and dying at young ages because they were using that makeup to make them to beautify themselves, but in reality it was poisoning them. That's kind of a metaphor for what I'm saying. You don't want to make sure that you're not teaching your children a bad, flawed ideology. You know what I'm saying? So improve, self-improvement, constantly being better today than you were yesterday, being better tomorrow than you were today. I don't care how much you know more. I don't care how far you learn more, dig deeper, because your kids are worth it. Your community is worth it. The more I know, the further I can go. You know what I'm saying? The diameter of your knowledge gives you the circumference of your mind, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna really try to expand your mind to the best of your ability, and your spirit and your heart and your soul, so that your children can benefit. You know what I mean?
Hey man, I think that's excellent advice. That's excellent advice. I completely concur. Thank you for that. Now, going to one more generation removed, your grandfather was a jazz saxophonist.
Yeah, he was.
I think that they say I think he brought you your first piece of equipment.
He did.
Okay. So music is like in your blood. You was already you was ordained to do this.
Yeah, my father actually, I'll take you through the journey. My father was a musician. He had a record label, Salsa Picante Records. He's so funny. He's so funny.
That's fine.
And he, you know, he wrote a lot of music, a lot of songs under the name Jimmy Nunya, N-U-N-Y-A, because it was none of your business and all that. He was, he was a wild out, but he made a lot of great music. And my grandfather he played the tenor sax, played in a lot of jazz bands. My grandmother was a choir member. but actually a choir. But she sung in the Catholic church though. She's a Catholic church choir, so it was different. I was raised Catholic, which was really interesting because obviously most of our community is raised in a black church. I was raised in the Catholic church. It was black, but it was Catholic, so it was real different. But that my family was all about music and all about bettering yourself. You know what I'm saying? All about like, what can you do to make yourself better? You know what I mean? And Grandpops was definitely funny. He was a funny dude, man. Funny dude.
Man, it's a true blessing to even be able to have your father around right now. You know what I'm saying? To go to for insight and things that you didn't even know to ask at the time.
Well, yeah, for me, look, honest, my dad is gone. My dad is gone now. But
mine is too. Okay, cool. You spoke to him in present tense, like, so you say he is funny. Like
that's because he's so close. You know how with
real.
Your heart, it's like they still exist. You know what I mean? Like in my heart, they still exist, but it's like, man, you're right though. You're gonna sound funny. Like a lot of times when I make business decisions or when I think about things, I'll sit there and just say, what would my father say about this right here? He said, oh,
it's important.
And it's interesting. It really works. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'll do thought experiments, you know what I'm saying, sometimes, and try to think about answers that way. But yeah, he was, my bad. He was.
Well, no, he still is.
Yeah, he's a special dude. And my grandfather's special too. You know what I mean?
Man, I appreciate you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're an author as well, correct?
Yep.
You did a fitness book.
Couple of them. Yep.
A couple of them. And what was it about being an author that showed you a new side of yourself that kind of that developed a new gift?
What's interesting about writing books is that you find out that how much people are affected by who you are and what you do and what you say. It's easy to underestimate your influence in the community.
I've been a victim. I mean, I've done that to myself.
You like
trying to keep myself humble and kind of, take my eyes off of the strength that, you know what I mean? Exactly. And so, humility is perfect when properly applied. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But you also gotta be mindful of who you are, what you represent, and what you're capable of.
I couldn't have said it any better. That's exactly my point. So writing those books really taught me that. When you meet people and they're like, yo, L, I lost 80 pounds to your platinum workout book. Or yo, L, my mother, had diabetes, but she saw your book and started training. Or, or look at the recipes in your Platinum 360 book and this and that. So yeah, that really, it taught me a lot about life. You know what I'm saying? And I've just come to realize that I need to share with my people and share with the people and not just like hoard all of the knowledge that I have that I've utilized to get to this place in my life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's easy to kind of just be like, I'm just going to keep it to myself. Nah, you got to share that.
My slime young thug, he told me, man, it's an eloquent piece of advice I wasn't expecting. And I always say it every chance I get. He say, you must teach what's been taught.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing too. You gotta treat yourself. You treat others the way you treat yourself, and you treat yourself the way you treat others. You know what I mean?
Real.
That's a real deep. That's a deeper way of looking at it. I picked that up in Phil Jackson's book, and I thought that was really interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like really being there for people, and really like being there for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
So look, man, I appreciate your time. I don't want to hold you up too much. Thank you again. Thank you again for blessing us and with your insight, your experience, your perspective. I want to remind people, man, to go to rockthebells.com. It's for the culture, presented by the culture. You know what I mean? You got everything from music and content to merch and other items that you could purchase. And it's brought to you by LL Cool J and the rest of the GOATs of that era. Hip-hop. So I think that it's important that we support each other, just as LL has said. He on the front lines of representing our people, man, speaking up, doing the right thing. He also just dropped a new record. Was it just a freestyle or was it a record?
Freestyle, just a freestyle.
Okay. Well, you should listen to it.
Yeah, but they should, you know what? But they should check it out. And if they haven't heard it, go check it out because I think it's a lot of truth in it. And for some people, you never know. It may become a record. It may be a piece on an album that lives somewhere. So it probably is a record. I guess that is the right way of calling it because I can see that.
It's definitely a piece of work, bro. And you know what I'm saying? I think it could be respected and appreciated by anyone who has an appreciation for the craft and for the culture. Now, of course, you already know we have a tradition here, and that tradition here is the word of the week. Now, the word of the week, you know, I just pull it from the conversation, you know, something that I feel like can embody, you know, something that we've been speaking about. And the word that I have decided for today is declivity.
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 Okay.
A downward slope. Now, the sentence I will use, let's see here. All right. Declivity. While other rappers' careers have been a bit of a declivity, LL has managed to remain relevant and continues to push the boundaries. Declivity.
I like, that's interesting. Declivity. Wow.
I feel like Rock the Bells is filling the void.
No diggity, you know what I'm saying?
And showing up to answer the call of declivity for an entire era. You know what I'm saying?
Lifting it up, lifting up the culture, preserving those legacies, embracing. It's a bridge to the youth. It's not
empowering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is for our culture. This is for us, so we can know where we come from. You know what I mean? This is for us, so we can, you know, you could go to mom and dad and auntie and uncle and say, yo, this is for you. Yo, unc, check out rockthebells.com. Yo, auntie, check out rockthebells.com. It's for y'all. You know what I'm saying? So it's for all generations. And yeah, no more declivity, baby. No question about it.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward, baby. Onward and upward.
Salute. Love and respect. Watch your favorite episodes of expediTIously right now on the expediTIously YouTube page.